Alright, what's up, people? I figured I'd do a lighthearted video today. You know, I still need to go back to my Katub and see, because I need to make sure there's only 7, because I did this like 4 times and I got 7. I need to reread it because everybody voted for 8. Whatever. We'll get down to that. I want to talk about graded comic books and maybe share like some advice. Obviously, what needs to be said is the higher the grade, the better. It's a 10-point scale, although the highest I've ever seen, I have seen some 10s, but I don't think they're real. The highest I've seen is 9.8. So, I mean, maybe there's a 10 somewhere or something, but I wouldn't trust it. So, you want the higher number, or you want something within your price range. So, a lot of the older stuff that I own is going to be lower grade. And that's for 2 reasons. Number one, because over time things deteriorate and comic book grading is relatively recent. So you're bringing an old book in to get judged, and it's judged by modern standards. So you might get something at a 5.5 or a 7.0. These aren't bad investments, and I'll get to the investment part in a second. These are not books that you can read. If you want a readable copy, get it without the CGC grade. This is sealed, hermetically sealed, in a plastic case that if you open it, you're fucked. You just lost a bunch of money. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that. Buy a readable issue. They usually go for like 1/10 the price, or you can just subscribe to some kind of thing on the internet where they let you read all the comics ever. I think they have subscriptions like that. The most important thing, though, that I want to tell you is that the newer the comic, the more risky the investment. And there's multiple reasons for that, but I would say, like, if you're getting something like, for example, a Golden Age comic, which I think I don't have any. I do not have any Golden Age comics, graded or ungraded. By the way, 95% of my comic book collection is ungraded. It's the comics that I had from when I was a kid. Can I get them graded? Yeah, but that process costs money. So basically, the old shit, like the Golden Age shit, that stuff will never lose value. It will only gain value. You know, you're talking your shit like your Detective 27s, your Action 1s, you know, your Amazing Fantasy 15s, your Sensation Comics #1. You know, these things fetch like millions of dollars. You know what I mean? And that's not even off a very high. I mean, that could be an 8.5 grade or something. You know, you're getting $1 million for that shit. So, and you want to focus on first appearances are huge. If you can get the first appearance of a character that is like very popular, that shit will only go up in value. However, what I want to talk about is what you might call a recency anti-bias, which is basically the newer something is, it's far more risky to invest in something like that. But the thing is, the jump in level is much lower. So like if you get a 9.8 of something that came out within the last year and a half, 2 years, you're paying $150, $150 for it to get a 9.8 graded, especially if you get it signed or something like that. But the thing is, you're betting that, you know, in 10 years that book will have increased in value by a certain percentage. It might, and it might not. You know what I mean? It depends on what's known as longevity in the business. You know, in comic books, there are some things that might go up in value. I remember I was offered to buy something, and no, this isn't Batman: The Dark Knight Returns or The Watchmen. This was it's kind of like a McFarlane reboot of Spider-Man, in which there was all these foil cover variants. And I was offered in at ground level. So they had like a purple one, they had like a silver one. They had all these, right? And I said, nah, Spider-Man's really, because Spider-Man wasn't my guy. When I was collecting comics, Spider-Man was just not my guy. I didn't have a problem with him. I just didn't like him all that much. I just didn't vibe with me. I know he's a lot of people's favorite, and I respect that. But what I'm saying is not for me, And it turns out that if I would have bought like multiple copies of all those, I'd be like 200K in the plus. That's how expensive these are now to buy. I have the entry level. Well, it's a 9.8 graded, but it's I'm gonna say mass market because it wasn't. These were direct sales, but just the base level. Like it's called the black cover. But then you had, like I said, you had like the silver color, you had like the fucking gold cover, you had like the purple cover. I think the purple is worth the most. I'm not entirely sure. But sometimes you get to come in at something on ground level and you don't notice it at the time, and then it turns out that that's one of the most valuable books ever. So a lot of this is a guessing game, and if you don't know comics or trends in comics or things like that, don't even try to play the game. You know what I'm saying? But if you do, those are the things you should focus on. You know what I mean? Like you want first appearances and origins. You want things that basically are timeless. So that gets back to the old school. But in the recency anti-bias, you basically want to have a good judge of comic book trends. And if you do that, buy graded, buy what you can afford. Some of these books are very, very expensive. There's a bunch that are above my fucking pay grade. So I buy what I can afford or things that interest me, like the one on screen now. I call this the Silver Surfer combo. So you have Thanos, number 16, and this is actually the debut of the Cosmic Ghost Rider. They don't give it a credit for being the debut of what's known as the Worthy Silver Surfer, but that's the one where a black Silver Surfer basically wields Mjolnir for the first time. So he's like Silver Surfer, but he's black colored because he became the fallen Silver Surfer, and now he's worthy of Mjolnir, and he's gonna go and fight Thanos. And how do you think that ends? I'm not spoiling it, but then we have Silver Surfer Black number 4. I wanted the variant cover, so this is him fighting against Null, the god of the symbiotes. These these two books to me just said buy. You know what I mean? Buy. I call it the Silver Surfer combo. Buy. I think I bought those two in the same day because they both like had very special like things in them. In one case, you have the first appearance of the Cosmic Ghost Rider and technically the first appearance of what's known as the Worthy Thor. And then Silver Surfer Black number 4, it doesn't really have any first appearances, but it talks about a concept known as the Black Winter, which is kind of like, that's who Galactus is the herald of. Meaning Galactus destroys planets and eats them for energy. The Black Winter basically destroys and eats universes for energy. So he's like one tier level above Galactus. It's not his first appearance because he gets mentioned a lot and stuff like that, but it is the one that kind of makes it clear where everything stands. So, these are books that I like, so I invested in them. But hey, maybe you like Spider-Man a whole lot. I don't know. I have one, I think, only one graded Spider-Man book. Although I do have an Amazing Spider-Man number 300, first appearance of Venom. Maybe a 7.5 grade. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't gotten it graded. So, that's from my private collection. But, or my ungraded, all the comic books I have just laying around collecting dust and all that type of bullshit. But seriously, comic books are the new stamps, man. It's worth investing in them, in my opinion. Especially if you're a comic book fan. But anywho, yeah, no. Soft fucking video, right? You wanted me to talk about Satan and hand gestures or whatever the fuck that dude's on about. have no idea.